I'm Leonard Elijah Shemtob,
And I'm Amir Araghi,
and we are,
the Conscious Cup.
just as many of us drink coffee to get through our day, the Conscious Cup is all about filling your soul with a guiding light of energy to navigate through your week. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be talking about the grind, where we talk about upcoming events in the spiritual community, then to filling your cup, where we'll get to the main subject of this week's podcast, which is paradox and how it's the key to the truth. We're going to go to what's brewing, where we peek into the current state of global consciousness by looking at current affairs and news. And then we're finally going to go to Spill the Beans, where we discuss our weekly spiritual tasks that involves both you and us and our personal reflections on them. So with that, we ask you, what are you filling your spiritual cup with? Welcome back.
All right, everyone. We're excited to have you all back here. It's an exciting day, exciting year, right?
Right. I'm Leonard Elijah Shemtob, and for those who don't know me, I have been working with Amir for a while now, and I've been studying spirituality for many years, meditating for many years, with a high emphasis on the raw material, Buddhism, Veda Vedanta. I've studied Nisargadatta Maharaj, Nityananda, Ramana Maharshi, Robert Adams, Alan Watts, and many others. Universal truths can be found in all of it. It's really wonderful. I have a YouTube channel called Hollywood Frequency, where I've done, 30 plus videos on spirituality that you guys can check out. It's called Hollywood Frequency. We have an IG as well. And I also do events with Amir, and we're planning on doing more events, which we'll talk about later. And I'm grateful to be here and grateful that your ear is with me today.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm Amir Araghi, and I have been teaching forms of spirituality now for a dozen years, almost a baker's dozen years now. It's been very, very exciting, and I really focus in on a lot of ancient spiritual texts, including texts from Ferdowsi and the Shahnameh, Rumi, Hafez, both Persian poets, but have also done workshops on Carl Jung, on Socrates, on Nietzsche, and many, many different subjects. I teach 3 nights out of the week now, and I've also been leading a book club where we have read, I want to say 11 or 12 books now.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's spanned a decade, if you can believe it. So it's been wonderful doing workshops. I've done a few, Leonard and I have done a few together, and looking forward to doing many, many more. And yeah, that's my background.
So let's get into it. We're starting with the grind, spiritual events. Good stuff. The weather's getting better. People are coming out of their homes and into nature. There is a spiritual event happening in Torrance, I believe, at the Rumi Academy, and Ali Pajooshgar. I don't know. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Pajooshgar.
Okay.
Yeah.
My fully Persian friend will handle the heavy names.
The enunciations are for me.
Live music and dance. This is going to be a wonderful celebration. Actually, Amir, one of Amir's students, is going to be there as well, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about it. You're familiar with the event?
Relatively familiar, yeah. They've been working. It's a combination of songs and dancing with the emphasis on Rumi's poetry. So they'll be actually singing many of his poems and doing dances to go along with it. Really the point of all of this stuff, and I've been involved not with the Rumi Academy, but other aspects of this, is really like the goal typically here is to try to make the music support what is being said. And Ali does a great job. My brother-in-law Farzad is also very, very involved, and he's been a big supporter, and so he'll be there as well.
Are you going to go?
I will be there. Yeah, I will be there.
It's Sunday. What day of the week is this?
It is Sunday. This Sunday.
This Sunday. What time?
I was going to say June. Jeez,
Why am I asking you? I have it in front of me. 5:30.
It is May 7th.
May 7th, 17:30. They put military time. This is the kind of folks they are. Just beware. No, I'm just kidding. 1730 to 2100 hours.
Aye, aye.
Yeah, I actually might tag along with you
Yeah.
or show up. It sounds great, and the Iranian American Society is going to be there as well. What Bush referred to as the axis of evil.
Yeah.
I'm
You
just
got two of them
kidding.
sitting in front of you right now. It's great.
I'm just playing. I mean, he did actually say that about Iran, but
Yeah.
no, this actually looks really nice. And the picture I'm looking at, it looks like it's in a beautiful field with a view. I don't know if that's the
I don't know if that'll
location.
be.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, the colors and stuff will probably be there, but yeah, it's awesome. Look, I think anything that's in this vibration,
Totally.
especially led by these, really like Rumi is one of those just masters of spirituality, and lucky enough, I'm gonna diverge for 1 second, but the class on Monday night is his book Masnavi. I gotta tell you, Leonard. I mean, he
He's
talks
great.
about wine a lot, right? And I'm getting chills as I'm even talking about it. But when you're done, it feels like you've drank wine. Like when we're done on Monday
You're
nights,
buzzing.
drunk, high.
Yeah, he's amazing. Now the website to go to for this, please go and get some tickets. Is rumiacademy.org. Rumi, RUMI, academy.org. Or you can call 818 290 0965. 818 290 0965 or rumiacademy.org to get your tickets. Amir's going to be there, so you know it's going to be lit. So that's one event, and then there's
Yeah.
another event as well that you're going to be hosting, or you're going to be
Yeah.
co-hosting.
Yeah, I'll be hosting it. It is a once a month get together, and actually the point of this, really similar to this podcast, is to be able to really delve deeply into these topics and be in a position to have the time to get there, right? And I think as consciousness is growing, these formats like this are really, really important. And so the title of it is Deep Discussions and Dinner.
Love it.
And so, there's definitely an importance to literally using the old phrase breaking bread with people,
Yes.
because you will sit next to a person you might not have, prior to on Zoom or whatever it is. And when you share a meal, when you get to know people on that level, it breaks down barriers. And when that happens, two things occur. One is you become a lot more comfortable with each other. And so you're able to express more easily. But two, which I think is really, really powerful, is you can start to push each other, right? In a positive way, because clarity comes from that. And so having a format like this, which again, the next one will be Sunday, June 4th, gives us, call it a 5, 6, 7 hour time period to be in this level. And so the point of it is, there will be one topic, free flowing conversation. No one's going to talk over each other, and we're just going to be able to dive deeply into it. And it's going to be continuously going on the first Sunday of every month.
Yeah, and we had a book club event here at my place a while ago, and I actually cooked vegan kubides. And I think it was the last day of Bringers of the Dawn, if I'm not mistaken, or was it a different book?
I think we did. That was the workshop I led on Allegory of the Cave, Plato's Allegory of the Cave.
We did the last one here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
With the vegan kubide.
Yeah, and it was awesome. It was so awesome. First of all, the people in the book
great.
club are top tier people with high, great, beautiful, wonderful energy. I mean, this is like you leave the book club meeting with 5 people even at the park, and it becomes 2-day high. So we had like 10, 15 people here, and we were all talking. It was so much fun. It was so great. So I'm really looking forward to this June 4th. Put it in your calendar, Sunday, June 4th. If you're getting this podcast, it's in your ear, most likely you're invited. If not, you can message us, and we'll see if there's room to have more people, etc.
Yeah.
But it's great, and anytime I get an opportunity to be around the folks from the book club, whether I'm co-hosting, I'm a student, whatever it may be, I'm a fly on the wall. I'll take it, because it's really it's amazing, and you've worked hard to curate a really good group, and it's really an enjoyable thing. So all right, so June 4th, That's the grind. You have live music on Sunday with the Rumi Academy in Torrance, and then on Sunday, June 4th, at an undisclosed location. We're working on the location.
Yeah.
We've talked to
Top secret.
we've talked to a couple people. We're looking. We might be.
It's part of the access of Eagle, so we can't reveal everything. We got to be mysterious about some things.
We were gonna do it at this place called Shomol.
Yeah.
And no, anyway, so there'll be a location. We'll keep you updated.
And by the way, for everyone watching this, if you have a spiritual event, if you're attending anything that you like, if you want to share something that you're leading or you've heard about, please
Yeah.
do comment on these videos, and we
Just-
would be happy to share it. This is a very open platform and integrative, and we want to have the community also participate.
Yeah, just DM us and Venmo us like a couple $100, and we'll make sure we plug your event.
Exactly.
We'll give you the Cash App, and send us a few $100. Maybe we'll mention it.
Yeah. At evil access _Leonard _Amir.
Stop it. No, we would love to share it if it's good for the group. It's good for us to share. All right, moving on. We're gonna go to filling your cup. The main topic today is paradox key to the truth. Paradox key to the truth, and Amir is going to be leading this one.
Yes, this is a topic that is very near and dear to me. And this was, I got to tell you, I mean, this was something that kind of organically started to grow in my classes roughly about 5 years ago. I like distinctly remember it. It was a couple years before the pandemic. So I started to really get to this level, and we're going to really break this down on kind of step-by-step basis to talk about why paradox is the key to the truth in a way. And I started to realize, Leonard, it was one of my favorite lines that you've probably heard me say a million times. But I started to tell my class, I would tell them, I said, listen, and this would be in like really intense moments where we're just flowing and vibing. I go, I'm going to tell you something. Nothing that you do matters. Nothing. And every little thing that you do is the most important thing.
So we would consider that a paradox.
We would consider that a paradox. And so, I mean, I'm going to say it again, but when I get into these, I really get the chills because it's so powerful ultimately. And so I started to see, and I started to recognize that as I'm really getting into deeper conversations, thoughts, while I'm teaching or I'm leading, or when I'm in self-reflection mode, I felt like I would get this clarity, and then I would immediately go to the other side and say, would this work? And it would. And I would just be sitting there going, this is the most bizarre thing, right? Like that statement that I just made.
Okay, well let's slow down a second. So you'd have these moments where you'd come to some sort of clarity. I got that. Okay, I'm with you there. And then you said you'd think about, would this work? What do you mean say would what work?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I mean by that is I would get to an epiphany. I would get to like a realization about something, right? Like, oh my God, yeah, this is all just a game, right? For example, this is all just a game. Like, you can't take this really seriously. And then I would go to the other side and I would go, should we take this seriously? And I would realize, well, is serious really what I'm talking about? And I go, well, not really. It's not about the seriousness, but it is about really deep intentional focus. So I go, well, wait a minute. That really works. And this really works, but they're the opposite end of the spectrum. How is this working? Right? And it's funny when I mentioned paradox, right? You immediately said what? What does it remind you of? Duality. So this is it, right? Because as I started going on, I go, well, this is really interesting because it's the truth is this thing, right? It's this spectrum. And over the course of the past year and a half, I've gotten to this part that really was like jaw dropping to me. And it was, you know, what is the holder of everything that we're in terms of numerology, right? And we can talk about that. But what is the holder? What is the number that holds all of this in our reality? It's oneness, right? And so as I got to this, I realized that paradox is truth because paradox is oneness. It is the thing that holds the entire field of duality. As nearly infinite as that is, it holds it. And the only other thing that holds that is life as we know it, right? Is truth as we know it. Truth holds the space. I know this is going to sound really weird, and I'm happy to go into it in detail. Truth holds the space for fallacy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of paradox has been one of those monumental things, and I think we all can really go to that level. Why? There's two big reasons why this works, Leonard. One of them is that you immediately remove yourself from a position of being right. Right goes away, right? Because a lot of the times when we associate clarity, we associate it with one thing, which I'm not saying it is, but we become separative in that moment, right? We go, look, the truth is, whatever, big pharma's like this, right? And then you almost immediately move yourself from that. Am I going to get fired? I'm just kidding. But you move yourself away from that, right? So that'll come later. But so you move yourself away from that. So all of a sudden, and I do think this has to do with the way that we're physiologically set up, that we're almost in this dualistic mode of thinking. So we immediately move to one end of this spectrum, and then the other stays there. And so what paradox has done for me, and I hope this is something powerful for us to be in an exercise, is to immediately move to the other side. And when you do that, and if there's no other side, that means you're off on one side. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but there is another side, and when you're saying there's no other side, it's just because you're thinking there's no other side. And here's the thing: there is no other side because it all is one. But in that example, if, for example, I say big pharma, let's just use what you said. I say, well, big pharma's terrible. There's no goodness there. This, that. Now I'm all completely on this side, right? And I say, well, there's no other side. But the truth is, there is another side to it, whatever it may be. But reality is that those two sides are really just one because
Correct.
everything is one.
Correct.
So there's a big paradox in itself.
That's it. That's it. And so when you can get to this holder of the space that allows for both, it's paradox, right? And one of the things we've discussed this, but I'm huge on this, is that in the classes, almost on a weekly basis, one of the things that we are consistently doing is we are breaking definitions. And then two things happen, which on the surface sounds crazy paradoxical. Like the mind is, no way. This is, what are you talking about? And those two things are, as we break down definitions, two things occur. The definition becomes extremely broad, significantly more broad than what it was, and yet it's significantly more clear. And the mind has an issue with that. It goes, what do you mean? You can't make something more expansive and make it more clear. That's insane, right? What does the mind want? Concise.
Yes, exactly.
Efficiency. No more. 2 words. Done. Finished. Which I agree with a lot of the times. But as I'm doing that, and that would always resonate with me, I go, yeah, we want our definitions to become significantly more broad and simultaneously way more clear.
Right. And as we define ourselves, we confine ourselves. You know, it's something that I'm like this, then I can't be like that. You know, I had a good friend of mine who I recommended a good teacher for, and that friend said, well, I'm happy to do a session with them, but I want to talk with them for half an hour and let them know, you know, why I am the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, well, you've defined yourself now. You want to spend a half hour defining yourself to this person? Well, if you're that way, you can't be anything else. You've confined yourself to that. If I say I am I only wear blue, well, I can't wear any other colors. I mean, it's a silly example, but I'm defining myself as a blue color wearer. So if I'm a blue color wearer, then I can't wear any other color. Now, that could be a good thing or a bad thing, but reality is that, there's no need for defining anything.
No, no.
And words are actually poor servants of reality. You go around the greats, around the gurus, there's hardly any talk. And as you go in the higher densities, there's hardly even need for thought.
That's right.
Because
That's
even
right.
just a thought brings you down. Even just a thought creates suffering. And why do we meditate, right? I mean, I'm going a little bit further out here.
No.
But if there's space to have that conversation, or at least, sprinkle it in a little bit, it's like when we're in meditation, right, and we're actually just completely clear and there's nothing happening, we're not even breathing. The space between the breaths, right, is complete peace. And for anyone who does meditation, I'm sure you found it. That place is just complete peace between the thoughts, between the breaths. It's complete peace. And as soon as a thought comes, again, it brings you down. There's a suffering that's happening. And usually that thought is desire or fear. But whatever it may be, I'm tired, my leg hurts, when is this going to be over? What did I have to do today? What's that sound I'm hearing? How long are these breaths I'm paying attention to? That was a short breath versus the last long. The last one was long. Immediately we're dropping out of peace.
So, for clarity's sake, I know what you're saying, but tell me what you mean by thought as opposed to the other thing that is thoughtless. Where does the thought come from? Where does I'm not going to name the other part, come from?
Where does the thought come from? It comes from the mind.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Which I'm not.
So what happens when you don't think?
You have peace.
Yeah.
You have total peace.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. In the higher densities, they asked Ra, about thought, and it said, well, we have thought. I don't know, I'm not paraphrasing here, but it was like, when necessary, we'll have thought. It's like, what about names? Do you have names? And it's like, we don't really need names. There's no point. I mean, but the 3D mind is so, material based. It's like, and everything is so separate. I'm different than you.
Right.
The illusion here you're talking about earlier. The game, it's an illusion,
Yeah.
all of it's an illusion. And the separateness that we have is an illusion, because I'm you and you're me. I mean, we're all from the same source, literally.
That's
Rumi
right.
said something about, you're not the, what is about the ocean, the drop in the ocean? What does he say? You know the quote from Rumi? It's a beautiful one. Like, you're not a drop of the ocean. You're the entire ocean in a drop.
And the part of that comes from the brain, that's paradox in itself, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
Like, yes, I am a drop and I'm the whole and I'm separate and I am not. And that is this entire basis of it, because when you can see both of those things, it's as if your mind explodes. And going back to your state, that's when the brain, when you get to these moments of paradox, true paradox, right? Which is the truth. I know that sounds really funny to say. It almost sounds like I'm saying the same thing over. You'd all of a sudden let go, and there's no thought there anymore. You're just in this like epiphany.
Because it's all allowed. It's all okay.
That's right.
It's all okay. As soon as I say, oh, Amir's me and I'm Amir, or as soon as I say that side exists, well, the other side exists too, or whatever it may be, I'm not fighting with it anymore.
That's right.
But when I'm on one side, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I do this all the time. You know what I mean? So some of you listening be like, well, I know Leonard. He's really a stickler about many things. Yeah, I can be. I am still here in 3D right now. But, as soon as you go to that place and you realize that, then you can relax, because then it's not such a big deal. You're not so upset about it, because that's just the way it is. And it's okay. It's okay that there's an ocean. There's okay that there's a wave. There's okay that there's a drop from the wave. And at the end of the day, it's all the ocean. And at the end of the day, it's all water.
That's right.
So, but it's taking that view, zooming out, right? Because like, people could say like, what do you see, when you see this right here? And you can say, well, I see green, or I see a leaf. Okay. When you get closer, what do you see? You say, well, I see green. And when you get closer, even closer, what do you see? You say, well, I see atoms and particles.
That's
and when you get even closer, what do you see? You see space, nothing. So it's really, what's perspective? All of them are right. You know, they say the five blind man who touched the elephant. And
Right.
I asked him, what did you feel? One guy says, I felt hair. One guy says, I felt really rough skin. And one guy I felt, you know, whatever, something so smooth.
Yeah.
And these five blind men are arguing on what an elephant is,
Right.
but no one can tell them, look, it's all the elephant. It's all the same elephant.
That's right.
Well,
And
what's your...
by the way, that's in Mastavi. That's a
Okay.
Rumi story, which is so,
Great.
so, you know, circling it back to it. But you're absolutely right. And what I find that does is it also brings you back to paradox, right? When you all of a sudden let go of the illusion simultaneously, and this is why I want to emphasize this point, is that it should motivate you on the other end of it too. When you are in this moment of pure relaxation, where you're like, yeah, man, this is an illusion, but simultaneously something will pop up and it'll be like, and enjoy every bit of it. It's not to let go, it's then to fully immerse, which is the complete opposite end.
Do you feel that all the time? Do you
No,
it's tough.
no.
You know, when you're
No.
facing, like, a lot of times when we say it's an illusion, I don't know, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, but I say it sometimes in my case too. A lot of times when we say it's an illusion is when we're suffering. You know, when something happens that's, you know, it's suffering happens and it's a real tough pill to swallow and we're like, oh man, this is going through this. And what do you say? You're like, well, you know, it's all an illusion. Everything's going to be fine. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind anyway. Who's really suffering? To whom are these thoughts coming? You know, to whom are these thoughts coming that I'm suffering right now with the situation? Oh, it's Leonard. Leonard's not real. You know, what's real is I'm God. I'm the creator. I'm infinite. I'm beyond, you know, any body, mind, or I'm actually spirit. I'm this, I'm that, you know. But are saying that, it's not as a cop-out, but it's like, hey, don't take it so seriously. It's just an illusion. Like, don't let this situation that's occurred bring you down,
Right.
you know. But rarely do we say it in times that I'm like things are going well, like
Right.
you close a big business deal, you know, not that it can't be had, you know. I've actually said that a few times with things that are like really good happening, and I said, well, this is just temporary too, you know, because the truly enlightened being or the advanced soul is not emotionally reactive,
Right.
whether it's positive or negative, which is just a terminology that we attach to it, a
Right.
judgment.
Right.
There's no reactivity to it.
No.
Because they're balanced.
Right.
You know, a balanced person doesn't have that. They say, you know, the story of the guy on the horse. So.
Right.
You know,
Right. Right.
you know
Right.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, he fell off the horse. Oh, well, you know, it's horrible. He broke his leg.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God. And the guy says, so we'll see. And then the military comes around. Oh, he can't go in the military. He's got a broken leg.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good, right? Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then this and that and so on. It's like, you know, that's balance.
It is. And here's
And that's a paradox too in itself.
right. It's yes, absolutely. There's one thing that I want to mention on that one is there's two ideas that we want to kind of keep not separate, but they're one's like, maybe you can say one's like geometry and the other one's like calculus. So they have their own fields. There's clearly crossover. One is
It's all math.
It's all math. By the way, it really is all math in a way, not as we know it. But the part of that is that you being non-reactive is, and I think, you know, I'm going to quote Lisa Royal Holt on this from the book, The Golden Lake. She says, if you can be in a true neutral point of observation on everything, incredibly powerful, right? And I think that reason for that is that you are completely aligned. And I don't know if I should go there. I'm going to give a little bit of a secret away, but it's all good. I ask this question a lot of the times to people who are first coming to my class. Have I said this to you? If I haven't, I'll test it on you right now.
Oh, a test. How fun.
A test. Let's see how overjoyed he is. What's better, 23 or 9? Have I done this with you? No.
I don't neither. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
See,
know the thing.
So a lot of the times people will try to get really deep and they'll answer the question this way and they'll be like, no, well, that one's 1 digit, this one's 2 digit. What's the, and so people or they're just like, what the hell are you talking about? And my point to that is, when you are in this alignment, where you are in this neutral point of observation, you are like a scale. And the most important part of the scale is this fulcrum being completely, directly, absolutely 90-degree aligned. Why is that important? Because when the scale is true, it tells you this is 9 and that's 23. Guess what it doesn't do? Which one is better? Which one is worse? Judgment.
It's a very, very cool example, metaphor.
Yeah, it just erases. I can go, this is tea and that's coffee. Great. The key is that then you are immersed and tea and coffee makes you excited. You get what I'm saying? That's like the paradox, right?
So it's like when Bashar, for example, we went and saw Bashar, me and a few friends and my dad and his amazing wife. We went and saw Bashar, and one of my friends went up and asked a question and said, I'm going through, basically hell. And I have all these circumstances that are really, really challenging. And, Bashar right away, how exciting!
Yeah.
And that's a paradox there too. It's, I'm over here, this guy's over here suffering, going through hell. And at the same time, it's like, this is so exciting, because when you look back on it, that's why we're here, right? We're here to grow. And when you grow, usually when you go through the hardest parts of your life is the way you grow the most.
That's right.
There's things called growing pains,
yes.
right? Or is it pangs? No, it's pains, right?
Pains.
That's hunger pangs. Growing pains, because they're painful, but you get growth out of it. So yeah, I'm with you on that, totally. And being the neutral observer, being the awareness, and not reacting allows you to go through those points much easier.
Yeah.
But even Bashar got excited. He got excited for him. So he's on that spectrum too, because he's in 4D, right? Which is not beyond all that.
I think that's the point, is the full immersion of that, right? Like everything should cause you excitement in a way, right?
Then you're having emotional reactivity then.
But is it? Because if the vibrational frequency...
Excitement is.
Yeah, if the vibrational frequency of everything on some levels, the core of these things is love aligns with excitement and joy. And so it could be an aspect of it, but what I'm saying is that you want to be totally alive. And when you're totally alive, you cannot help but feel that joy. Like you just want to spread it with people. That vibration just pours from you.
Sure.
And so, but I think the key to that is this complete let go, where all of a sudden you just immediately go into joy. And I think some of our downfalls in ancient, very ancient, somewhat ancient, historical, and even current spirituality has been, I'm going to go close my eyes and sit on a mountain and forget the physical world. In my opinion, if that was the point, we would not be here. You need to be like in life and yet totally free from the limitation.
Sure, I agree, but you can't speak on behalf of everybody's journey. So there's people who are aesthetics who they're here one life. I mean, how many lives we have?
Sure.
They come one life to learn that renunciation.
Mm-hmm.
They want to renunciate food and eating regular meals. They want to renunciate comfort. They want to go through that rigorous training. Is it for everybody? No. Is it for a very small portion of people? Very small portion of people actually go through that kind of training. But it's a very, very tough path. Now, look, not everybody who comes here wants to leave right away either, right? Like this is an 8 density system here, and it's infinite. But we're in 3 and there's 8, right? Now, Buddhism talks about going from 3 to 8 in one life. Okay, not everybody who comes here wants to get out next round.
Totally not.
Some people want to spend 1,000,000 years in 6D.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
right. So someone may be saying, "Well, I'm going to go and do this extreme act of living in the forest because they want to get out faster." Where some people say, "Well, that's great, but I also want to live my life too." It's like the same thing as like a diet, right? Some people are like, "I need to lose 20 pounds," and someone's like, "All right, well, I'm going to lose 2 pounds a month.
Right.
Another person's like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 1 month.
Yeah.
Both are okay.
It's not about okay or not. My whole thing is the spirituality side that says I need to go somewhere. In my opinion, there ain't nowhere to go. You're already in it.
This is where you go.
That's my whole point.
Right.
That is my entire point, is that.
But you have to also look at, and I'm not this side or that side, just so you know.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm in this 3D. I have a house, I have a car, I have a child. I mean, like, I'm not living in the forest, even though the background would show it.
We are in a forest. I don't know where you're talking. It's freezing here, by the way.
Wow, and with all those jokes, I totally lost my train of thought.
Being here, you're still in the 3D.
Right,
You're
it was
still in
before
that
that.
vibration.
Yeah.
Pathways. Different experiences.
Gone. All
It'll
right,
come back.
Moving on.
But, to me, that's the whole thing, is that you want to fully immerse in life, experience every bit of this life. It's not, by the way, I want to be really clear on this. When I say that, it's not like, oh, let me also go and try this and try that.
Oh, I remember now.
That's the mind speaking. What I mean by fully immerse yourself, if something excites you, go for it. It is going to bring you closer and closer to that highest, truest vibration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So two aspects. So one is this world, this 3D world we're in, has a lot of distractions. It has a lot of requirements. It has a lot of has taxes. It has workers' compensation. It has insurance. It has education systems. It has tons of stuff that is a time suck. Okay, that doesn't really, you can use it. Any act can be good. You can use anything to get closer to God and get closer on the path. But for example, there's levels of renunciation too, right? Like you don't have to go live in the forest, but you could say, you know what, I'm going to get a smaller home in a quiet area, and that means my bills are going to come down. I'm not going to have to work as much.
Sure.
If I only have to work 20, 30 hours a week, now I can spend 20, 30 hours a week meditating, studying spirituality, going to book club meetings, like putting my effort and time into something that I think is much more valuable to me in the long term than going and making more money so I can live in a bigger house or drive a fancier car or whatever. And that's a level of renunciation.
Sure.
Now that stuff comes from development of, I think, of 5-6 chakras, right? It comes from the development of, and also through the suffering of realizing that those things aren't it. Like it's not the ticket to go work more. In some cases. Now, some people may be listening to this and say, well, I like to work more. I want to make more money. And that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times where we see through things. You either see it through or you see through it.
Right.
Now, some people will say, well, I need to go get more and more and more and more. And then that's fine. And they come back 10 lifetimes and they keep getting more and more. And on the 11th lifetime, they say, you know what? This is not that exciting anymore. What's next? And then they go into spirituality and there's that. Some people will do it in one life. They'll come in. Some people will make $100,000 1 year and then say, I'm never going to do this again. They go to Burning Man. They come back and they say, oh, I'm doing this. I'm changed my whole life. And you say, well, what happened, man? And they're like, dude, I saw through it all.
Yeah.
I saw through it all. I don't need all that stuff.
Right. But see, that's why I'm saying it's paradoxical. Because to me, when you get there, you do both simultaneously. You see through it.
And you live in it too.
And you're like,
but it's not the same thing. I think you're not the same. You're not the same.
Of course not. No.
I mean, I could talk on behalf of myself. Like, I don't see the value the way I used to in financial gain. I just don't. And I worked so hard for so long to make money. And I thought that was the answer to everything. And then when I got to the other side, to some degree, I mean, I'm not, Jeff Bezos here, but I got a decent place in my opinion. I was like, okay, now what? Like it's not it. This isn't bring the fulfillment. The suffering is still there. And the dispassion comes from the suffering. And that's when you start to look at it and say, well, what makes me truly happy? What is the answer? And that's when you start to go within. Now, it could be there's different catalysts that come, but when you start to go within, you start to find that peace inside. You start to realize you're infinite. You start to realize who you truly are. Then those things just don't do it for you the way they did before. And then you subtly renunciate stuff. Now, I'm not living in the forest. I'm here, like, on a podcast using a Shure SMB 7B microphone. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, but go ahead.
That's my entire point. That is the entire point. I think that the paradoxical part is that you are able to be, like we are, in the middle of Los Angeles and be totally able to experience LA totally free, and yet you're experiencing all of it. That's what I mean by paradox, is that you then become the eye of the storm, regardless of where you go, regardless of where it is. That to me, actually, I'm glad you brought up this example because it's bringing a lot more clarity. That's exactly what I mean by that paradox, is that it becomes regardless. You become that vibration no matter where you are, what you're doing, either in nature or on the 405 at 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday when it's raining and you're running out of gas. You're just that vibration. And it, by the way, takes 1 second to get there.
Interesting. I was driving a rental car, and this was like a year or two ago, and it was a new rental car. Okay, it was a Mercedes, and I have an older Mercedes, and you know, it's all fancy, and I don't know how to work it, you know. So I'm driving this thing, and I'm headed to you know, Northridge or something, and I don't know how much gas I have. I can't figure out. It says low gas, but it doesn't tell me. Like, my car tells me how many miles I have. This car didn't tell me how many miles I had. I couldn't figure out what buttons to press, and I just said, you know, it is what it is. I'll just head out.
Yeah.
I should be fine. So I'm driving. I'm listening to a spiritual talk. I think it was on Buddhism or something, and I'm just, you know, going down the road, and you know, lo and behold, as I get off the exit up in Northridge, and a busy exit, 4-lane, 5-lane exit, like really busy.
Yeah.
It runs out of gas. And I'm like, oh man, it runs out of gas. So I pull over to the right, and you know, and there's all these cars coming, there's trucks coming, big trucks, semis and everything. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, oh man, I'm out of gas. Like, what am I gonna do? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like 5-6 dudes get out of their truck, and they push me down out of the off ramp onto the right.
Nice.
Right. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? Call AAA, this, that. A girl comes in a Volvo SUV with a canister of gas, and she's like, I saw you before you got moved, and I wanted to bring you this gas because, you know, who wants to sit on the side of the road?
Amazing.
And I'm like, wow.
Beautiful.
You know, I didn't for 1 second get frustrated while this happened. I was in a good mood. I was just listening to this Buddhist talk, and I was like, you know what, whatever. I'll get up in a minute and call who I need to call. I'm going to finish this talk. It's nice. I'm out of the way now. I'm on the side of the road. Like, no one's going to hit me, and I'm going to listen to this talk. And when it's over, I'll either walk. There's a gas station up there. I'll walk there, or maybe I'll call AAA. I don't know. I'm not even worried about it. I'm just going to be in the moment and listen to this talk. And by the time the talk was over, I had gas. I was safe. I was on the road. You know, and that's what I'm saying when you're saying you're like on the 405, but you're still that vibration. I kept my vibration.
That's the key.
I was totally balanced. I was totally calm. I didn't get worked up about it at all. It was like nothing happened.
That is the paradox, right? That is the paradox, that comes and you're experiencing it, right? You're not like, I'm just going to get out of my car and walk away and I'll whatever, right? Because that's what we do a lot of the times in these spiritual realms.
Yeah.
In that example, what do? They open the door of the car and they're like, I'm going to give cars up. It's not serving me anymore. And that's my entire point, is the paradox is that you can even run out of gas and you're in that vibration and everything comes. And all of a sudden, you've transformed something that was there to something beyond. And so that is the part of it. I do want to talk about one idea, though.
Are we ready? You're going to move on to something else?
No, in paradox.
I mean, move on to something else, like out of this example, because I want to add
Yeah. No, please add it. Yeah.
So, but that situation that arose, right? That's like, how do we get to the place where like a major thing happens? We're running out of gas in modern day in a city isn't that big of a deal. But how do we go to a level where, you know, the higher self gives us something that's extremely in a judgmental mind, you know,
right,
but still challenging? You know, losing a loved one, divorce, financial collapse, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's tons of things we can say, you know, disease, sickness, big things that come. How you know, on a car running out of gas is nothing, you know, but when something like that happens, like being in that vibration so that the universe comes and just handles it for you properly or whatever it may be. That's where the rubber meets the road. Now, one way to get there is to take these challenges like running out of gas, and you pass that test, and they give you another one a little bit higher, and they give you another one, and you're sitting there saying, for God's sakes, why is it got to get harder and harder, right? But we're
right.
preparing you for this big one that's going to come later, so you're cool as a cucumber.
That's right.
Or here's another idea. Maybe you do so well that there's no need for that.
You let go. That's
The
exactly it.
surrender and the trust, the highest protection is complete acceptance and complete trust in the creator and his creation.
That
And whatever will be is supposed to be, and that's it.
and yet and simultaneously.
But hold on, I want to
yeah,
just I'm sorry, I want to just make sure that everyone hears this, because for me that made a big difference, because I went through a huge storm in my life for a number of years, and my spiritual teacher just kept telling me that, like, what is what is, and it's supposed to be that way, and the greatest protection is trust in that this is what's supposed to happen, and this is, you do all you can and you leave the rest to the creator, but you
That's right.
trust what's going on, and that release, that surrender allows us to be
that's right.
calm.
That's right.
Because
That's
if we're not second guessing and trying to change, I mean, look at our prayers. Look at what you pray. Okay. I don't know about you, but I'm not perfect in my prayers. But I prayed with my uncle, who's a super high being. He's 71 years old. The guy can do headstands. He's been meditates for hours a day. He runs circles around me. I mean, I talked to the guy and I learned so much. I try to talk to him at least 5 days a week. You know, he's one of my spiritual teachers. And he'll, man, I lost that too. Just like that. I went on a whole tangent about him. Oh, man. It's just for some of you to know, it's past midnight right now. It's been a long day.
It's all good. I was telling Leonard.
Trust of the creator, right? So he, I don't know. Go on.
It's all good. Listen,
Not my best work.
It's all good. The major thing that I just want to reiterate is that we can. All of these are ideas. All of these are beliefs that we need to go
Oh, I got it.
and do this again. Go ahead. I won't forget.
No, please.
That
Sorry.
we don't need to repeat cycles. We don't need to repeat anything. We don't need to go anywhere. There's nowhere to go. We have to remember unequivocally that we are in oneness. And when you are truly in oneness, you are in paradox and you allow for paradox, but you are beyond that state. But finish your thought. I want to go somewhere quickly with paradox, where we are in consciousness now, and then we'll move on.
Sure. It was just a prayer. I prayed
Yes.
with him,
Okay.
and his prayer was solely to be the instrument of the creator to carry out his will. Where our prayers, generally, normal people's prayers, is to change stuff.
That's
Right?
right.
God, help me with this. Help me to solve this. Give me the strength I need to overcome this. You know, I want to change this. Please help me with this situation I'm in. And what are we saying is I'm unaccepting. As much as I want to practice acceptance,
Totally.
I'm over here saying, God, please fix this for me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And
Think about that. How funny. There's a
100%.
paradox.
Absolutely.
I trust in the creator and his creation, but God, please, I'm going through a situation. Could you please solve this for me real
I'll,
quick?
I'll add one caveat because I think your uncle's saying it that way, right? But it's one of those things that we have to also simultaneously make sure. For me, the most powerful prayer is, what am I going to create from that space? Because then I am the creator in the most whole, egoless state that there is. Who do we see that does that?
I mean, that's a whole episode.
No, we'll get there. But children are like that, but they're doing it without awareness. Our job, if we want to say, is to bring that free spirit combined with wisdom. And again, that's a paradox because people are like, well, what do you mean? I got like 500 responsibilities. I'm an adult. I got to think about these things. I go, no. Once you get to the awareness, your job isn't to go sit on the sideline or to give anybody. Your job then is to go right back into that curious, excited. Everything makes them excited. Everything makes them excited. They just are oozing, right? Live is how old?
3.5.
3.5. What is he? Every time I see him, he's just excited. Everything makes him excited.
Yeah,
Every child.
My brother says, is it you that does this to him, or is he always like this, like always so high energy and excited? He's like, are you just amping him up? And I'm like, that's how he is.
That's how he is.
Kids are.
It's, by the way, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Please spend time around golden age right now. 4 years old, 3 to 4 is the pinnacle of consciousness in terms of they have their personality, it's coming out, their individuality is out, but they are purely in the flow of consciousness.
Oh,
And
it's
everything makes them excited. And so that's the point, right? Is like when you reach that wisdom, I don't mean this judgmentally. I really powerfully want to say this is that when you're in that vibration, then everything should make you happy. Everything should make you excited. What is that? Oh, yeah, yeah, yes. Why? Because now you're doing it with awareness. You're like, damn, this thing is, all of it is awesome. Let's go.
beautiful. Well
Let's go.
said. Well said.
So the one last thing I want to say on filling your cup, I think our cup is starting to overflow on this section, but I do want to bring it to, yeah, it didn't.
Nice. That was a good one.
That we are, by the way, there's a really good word in Farsi for that. It's called labriz, which is so beautiful. Shout out to my sister Della, by the way. That's like one of her favorite. It's like right where the water on the top of the cup is starting to bubble and it's just starting to overflow. In a paradoxical way, we want to be with that with consciousness, and yet the cup is really empty simultaneously too. I want to bring paradox into our state because there is a thing that I want to discuss, which is that ultimately what an option of consciousness that I think that we have experienced on Earth beyond history, if we want to call it modern history, is that something can happen. If you move into paradox, that means you have integrated those energies. And that's why I keep saying when you get to epiphany, go to the other side of it, make sure that you are able to see this duality in a integrative state. In our history, and you will see this within people as well, something happens. If you don't integrate, the opposite side of integration will lead you to oneness, but that will be fusion. And fusion is not a state we want to go into. Why? Because fusion is literally two items that now are fused together, but this takes so much energy. Just like when they, weld metal together, it takes an extreme amount of heat to bring these two things that don't want to be together. And then when they're stuck together, they're not integrated. They're just stuck together. And so I want to use this example with paradox to say, don't let fusion happen. Because by the way, it takes a lot of energy to expend. Instead of letting that, let these two things come together in a paradoxical state and you will feel just awesome. And in our world, I really think we're starting to get the integration. Look, we've probably fused a lot of points. I'm just going to touch on one thing. Atlantis was probably a fusion. It didn't integrate. It fused, right? It came right back to that same point, and then it keeps spreading and keeps spreading and keeps spreading. But the part we want to do is that example I've used before, right? I go, when the duality gets really, really separate, it'll come back and fuse together. But what we want to do is we want to start to bring the poles together in this paradoxical state where we go, oh yeah, that's beautiful too. And so is this.
So it's a force. The fusion is a force.
Fusion is a forcing.
The opposite is like doing a harmonious integration.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So, I resonated on this idea. I think we can come back to paradox, I'm sure, over the course of our next episodes we'll come there. But I really just want to bring that into focus for us, that we are completely able to and really start to play with paradox. See what other things are paradoxical in your life.
Right. Like if you look at the creator, how would the creator look at that paradox of those situations, right? It's all harmony. It's all within the creator. We're all a child of God. We're all God. So it's not a fusion there. It's a harmonious integration, or a harmonious live and let live type of situation where this side exists and that side exists and it's all okay, right? So it's like if we remember we're the creator and we try to look at it at that standpoint, then we won't have that rigidness
Yeah.
or like I have to accept those people too.
Right.
Yeah, okay, they exist, but I understand, so I have to accept them. Okay, that's fusion.
Right.
Versus like, yes, they're also a child of God. I may have been that same type of mindset a lifetime ago or next lifetime or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So the cup is full, and it's what's the Farsi term? Labrise.
Labrise.
Yes, the cup is labrise.
Yeah.
For those that following at home, labrise.
Lab, by the way, lab means both lips, but it also means
the rim of the cup.
The rim of the cup. So rees means overflowing.
Not to be confused with Tabriz. Labrise, Tabriz.
Tabriz, where Shams is from. Rumi's.
It's all about Rumi
light.
today.
Yes.
So now we're going to what's brewing. What's brewing? Okay, and the fun stuff, news events, current affairs. We're talking about. We'll briefly touch on this brew and Tucker Carlson. Do you guys know who Tucker Carlson? You know who Tucker Carlson is, right?
I do know.
Yeah.
I still, even though the guy hasn't worn one in probably 10 years, I always associate him with the bow ties. I remember that.
No.
He always used to wear bow ties. You don't remember
I didn't
that?
know that?
Yeah.
No. I rarely watch the news.
Yeah.
This actually has forced me to pay attention to the news. This podcast has got me to not watch the news, but like go and look at alternative news sources, really, because the non-alternative ones are all the same exact story. So here's the situation. Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox, and there was no clear reason why. They didn't come out and say it's this or that. There was no real statement that was worthy of belief of why he was fired. He had a show on Fox that was very, kind of like Peter Griffin from Grinding My Gears on Family Guy. Right. He was just, open-mouthed. He would express how he felt. He would call people out. He would say things that were controversial. It was very unlike regular media. And as a result, it was the number one show on news. The number one news show was Tucker Carlson's show. And so I did some digging to see what happened, and I used Google. I used DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo, if you don't know it, is another option for a browser. Instead of using Chrome or Google, you can use DuckDuckGo. A little bit more
of a truly free internet where it's not censored.
It's not censored. There's results that won't show that Google suppresses that DuckDuckGo won't. But these guys got ahead of this, okay? They know the game. They have the same story printed in 20 different ways from 20 different, media outlets. They just change a few words. The Variety has the same article as the Guardian in UK does, as does, Wall Street Journal and Forbes. And, you go down the list and you see the same things come up again, the same story come up again further down the list with just a tad different from the same even website. So you're sitting there and you're scratching your head and you're like, okay, so they're trying to get in front of this. And they, so I brought it up to Amir tonight and I was like, look, I want to talk about this, but I don't know why he was really fired, And Amir was like, I do. And I was like, really? I was like, great, then we'll go into it. So what I saw from the media was that basically there was a lawsuit that happened, and the Fox settled the lawsuit. It was a $787.5 million lawsuit. It was the largest publicly disclosed defamation settlement in U.S. history. The suit said that Fox broadcast baseless claims that Dominion's machines changed votes for then-President Donald Trump to Joe Biden. So,
which, by the way, sorry to interrupt, Tucker was adamantly pissed off about this towards the Republicans and Trump that were saying this. He literally said this on his show. Like, you don't have proof. You cannot do this.
So there's again confusion as to why was he fired then if he wasn't part of that whole thing. Then there was another idea that he used the C word to talk about Sidney Powell, a right-wing lawyer behind many of the 2020 election conspiracy theories. The network feared Carlson's use of the highly misogynistic word would undermine progress made by the axing another host, Bill O'Reilly. The C word. What's the C word?
Cool.
I mean, I have an idea, but I don't think they could use that on
We're not
going
to say it here.
So
there's
I don't know about that.
We want to be.
There was another lawsuit.
By the way, isn't that in complete contradiction? He's calling out the person who is coming up with theories about a fake election or
I know.
or issues
There
with
you
the
go.
election and
Back to
right
what do you call it?
paradox.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then there was another story called the Grossberg lawsuit. Carlson's departure came a month after a separate lawsuit that was filed by a former colleague centering on his workplace behavior. And this was interesting. There was some colleague that said that he treated this person worse than the other male colleagues. He also accused him of making anti-Semitic remarks to Jewish colleagues. And that's where things can get really hot. And that's, I don't know if that's true or not, but when that comes in, then the people, it's something serious. So and I don't condone it in any way.
Of course, yeah.
Why? What's wrong with any?
I'm laughing because the theories are just very
they don't seem. It didn't
interesting.
seem to me like it was thing, but I don't know. It said he had systematic bullying, lying, conspiracy mongering claimed that he was doing. They said that he, another situation, someone said that his Christian faith freaks out Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch was the one who fired him directly.
We should just come up with the article too and write
His
it too.
divisive Ukraine coverage and Russian support.
Why is that divisive? By the way?
Insubordination was another reason, and finally, the Murdoch kids got sick of him. Look at the last one.
Perfect.
Very, very good and high level thesis and analysis here that. Ultimately, the axe likely fell on Carlson because his string of issues coalesced into bigger problems that trumped even his millions of viewers for the Murdochs. And this is from the Insider, Business Insider. What I would say is that, I don't know. I don't think that if you're going to fire the most popular person on the news who has the biggest show, I think you need a reason. A good reason, not a bunch of theories. To me, that's where things got suspect.
Yeah.
I've seen Nike drop Tiger Woods because he cheated on his wife like 20,000 times, 20 million, I don't know, not 20,000 times, like 20 times. 20 people came forward, 15 people came forward and said, I was cheated on. His wife took a golf club to his Buick and smashed the window. And we're going to drop him. And they brought him back, but we're going to drop him. It's like, okay, here's something that happened.
Right.
But there was no Tucker Carlson with the golf club beating some car up or whatever. That didn't happen. So,
but there was.
Okay, so so that's all I know. That's all I know is I read a bunch of articles. I spent an hour researching this. I got nowhere. No definitive information for you guys. And I wasn't even going to bring this up, but then Amir had some inside information from the Amir Insider report.
It's out there, but long story short on Tucker is he actually went heavily into big pharma, and essentially was gone within a week. And on the show that he went heavy, I mean, you could imagine, obviously, COVID, the vaccine, all different kinds of stuff started to come up, and he's gone. And unequivocally, it's the old saying, right? Follow the money. By the way, do you know this? Do you know the number one advertising industry in the world is big pharma?
Of course.
It's not even close. And they particularly help the funding for news programs. By the way, you want to take a guess?
Who's on the board? I would just also ask who's on the board of the pharmaceutical companies that's also on the board of the media company. I bet you there's crossover.
Oh, there definitely is. By the way, I learned something today that absolutely blew my mind. This was actually on the Joe Rogan podcast that was so incredibly interesting. Do you know, listen to this, this is going to blow your mind. Big Pharma gives 65%, let me phrase it the other way, 65% of the budget of the FDA comes from Big Pharma. Can you honestly believe that? Did you not think the FDA was a federal thing?
I can't talk on any of that stuff.
Sorry. I will talk about it and say that is absolutely, unequivocally mind-blowing for me. That the Food and Drug Administration, who, by the way, approves and disapproves medication, gets 65% of its funding from Big Pharma. I mean, how blatantly do you want to talk about conflict of interest? I mean, that is just the most blatant thing. Here's an entity that is supposed to oversee medication and approvals of Big Pharma, and they're funded by Big Pharma. It's like
It's wild.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
their biggest advertisers, Fox's biggest advertisers are Johnson & Johnson, which they have a CV jab, GlaxoSmithKline,
pharmaceutical,
Novartis AG,
pharmaceutical,
AstraZeneca,
pharmaceutical.
These are the biggest guys that are advertisers and
Yeah.
paying these bills for these companies. So okay, so you're saying that that within a week of him going in on these
Adios.
folks.
Yeah, it was adios. It was gone. It was finished.
Adios. Okay.
Here's the bright part. In a paradoxical manner, this was probably the biggest blessing for him
Yeah, of course.
to get off of this format. And guess what? It's so beautiful how life works. Cable is dying in and of itself. Cable news is practically dead. So what are they doing? They're accelerating their own death. Wonderful. That's how you know the universe is in harmony and balance, isn't it? They're literally
there's no way this is
killing
going to
themselves.
this is going to stay on YouTube. They're not going to allow this. But if this does stay on YouTube and we're still here, thank you for listening and subscribe to the channel. Hit a thumbs up, make a comment in there. We appreciate you listening.
Yeah, all good. It is what it is. It's all good. Look, it might be our biggest blessing too.
It is true. I agree with you
Yeah.
that it's going to be great for him. Of course, he goes independent. He's going to make way more money. Why not? He has the eyes. The eyes are wanting to see what he has. Now the question is how can he do it without, how can he do it? Let's say without being suppressed or, screwed in a way by the powers that be that run the media. I don't know, and that's for him to find out. But
I'm sure Rumble and Spotify got a real good seat waiting for you.
I mean, that's true. That's true. He may have a big podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what a little bit of what's brewing.
That's some of the or I should say one of the pots that's brewing.
One of the pots that's brewed is that info that Amir and I presented.
Yeah, the other one.
More Amir than me. I'm just gonna say that out loud.
The other one that's really interesting right now, that's been going on for, I would say this one's been going on for about a month or so, was the collapse, and it started with Silicon Valley Bank, and then I actually have an account with First Republic, and it was the funniest thing. I don't know if you guys remember the information minister for Saddam Hussein. Do you remember that during the first Gulf War in the 91? Well, he had a information minister, and this guy was hilarious. He spoke English really, really well. Had the beret, right, like the military beret, full like camos on, super decorated. He had glasses actually. He spoke English really well, and he'd come, and this was, if you remember the Gulf War I.
What's this guy's name, real quick?
I don't remember. Just say Saddam Hussein's information minister,
Okay.
Gulf War. So he, the Gulf War, I'm not trying to make light of it, but if you remember, that was the first like almost live broadcasted war ever, right? Like they would show all of a sudden the bombings that were going on. You could see it on TV, like CNN would show like the bombs just dropped, and never before did we have access to that.
I see him. Glasses.
Glasses, yeah, hilarious, right? Do you have his name, by the way? Did you find his name?
Ali Baghdad Bob? No. Mohammed Saeed Al-Shahaf?
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
But they had, and so this guy,
Mohammed Saeed Al-Sahaf. Yeah, that's what it is.
he would come on, right? And this is like literally, there's now 15 minutes ago, they had like bombed, like, let's say like all of the electrical systems, which, yeah, that's what we do, by the way, in wars. They would go, well, the U.S., the not axis of evil, the axis of good, would bomb it, and
Hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up.
and he would pop up, and he'd have a press release, like an info, right, with everybody, and they'd be like, hey, they bombed this. He's like, no, they didn't bomb anything. Everything is okay. Everything is totally fine. So when the Silicon Valley Bank started happening, I got an email on Saturday from First Republic, like, we just want to let you know that we are in a very secure position. There's no need to worry. And I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Until I got
And,
this email.
yeah, exactly, right? It's like, I was talking to one of my friends today. It's like, oh no, she's a residential real estate broker, and she's like, I don't know whether to highlight this or not. I'm like, well, you can't do it that way, because if you're like, this house is perfect, except don't look in the attic. It's like, well, you're gonna go immediately look in that. So, and then on Sunday we got another one. Monday morning you wake up and First Republic was gone. But so what's going on now?
Money on that account?
No.
Okay.
No.
Jeez.
We actually we have a mortgage with it with a couple.
Their mortgage
partners,
rates are really good for a long
They
time.
were phenomenal.
I know. Everybody
I think
knows
that's
them.
by the way, I think that's why they collapsed them.
Oh no,
So-
that's not why they collapsed.
Well,
You know
no.
how banking system works, how
you didn't-
lending works.
You didn't hear what I said. I said that's why they collapsed them,
Oh,
which
okay,
is where I'm
yes.
going with the current
Thank you,
event.
okay.
Yeah.
My
So
bad. See, I'm interrupting again, and now it didn't serve me. Gotta wait. Finish your
all
thought.
good.
Gotta let him finish his thought.
So within the past from the time of this podcast, within the past roughly 24 hours, call it 36 hours now because we're well past into the night, Silicon Valley Bank was acquired by BlackRock. Surprise, surprise. And First Republic Bank was acquired by, surprise, surprise, JP Morgan. And so what is extraordinarily interesting is these two companies come in, they take the best parts of the portfolio, the rest is backed and secured by guess who? All of you guys and the two of us. The FDIC came and took essentially all the risk on the other side up. They come and essentially buy these banks, which, by the way, I can speak to First Republic personally, and I have people that I know that were at Silicon Valley. They were very client-driven, very, very customer service oriented. Now, Silicon Valley was a little bit different than First Republic because they weren't as much there. They took a lot of risks. I'm not defending either bank. They, when you take a risk, you got to be ready to collapse. But I do think there's other forces there. Now, the funny part of this, by the way, because I'm in commercial real estate, is what? BlackRock just massively defaulted on a huge number of properties, office properties, and yet they are allowed to come in and buy a bank.
Wow, really?
I mean, can you believe that?
Yeah, man, I can believe it.
It's incredible. Like, they literally were the borrower and defaulted against another bank.
Now, miss a car payment and see when you go and try to get a loan what they tell you.
Yeah. No. It's as if you... It's perfect example, right? Perfect example, actually. This is an incredible example. I defaulted on my car loan, and then I went and bought the dealership. That's literally what just happened right now. And it is a really important deal, not necessarily... That in and of itself should probably, make your mind want to explode. But you should see the bigger thing, that the system is rigged. And
Obviously.
significantly rigged. And if you're on the other side of it, you're going to get whatever you want. It just does not matter. But guess who gets bigger and bigger? And I always remind this of people, right? Chase's parent company.
I can guess what gets bigger and bigger. The Hell Realm.
Yeah. But do you remember that you know who the parent company for Chase is, right?
Who?
JP Morgan.
Yeah, of course. JP Morgan Chase.
Chase, a lot of people forget this. Chase, prior to 2008, did not exist on the West Coast at all.
It was Whammoo.
Yeah. And prior to that, it was Home Savings and Loan. By the way, all of these were very similar to First Republic, at least in terms of banking, right? First Republic did not do many risky things. They kind of got caught with the interest rates. But what happens is that the ones that sit on the Federal Reserve, but if you can, by the way, I'd love to see if what's her name, Janet Yellen, who is the Fed chair, I can almost guarantee you that she has, if not both, and I don't know this, this is literally just putting it into the ether, that Janet Yellen has either worked at JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs or both. And the crazy thing is, I'm going to divert real quick to the monster from Jekyll Island, in that the Federal Reserve System is not federal.
She was the J.P. Morgan Chase CEO and Treasury Secretary. Janet Yellen sparked $30 billion bank injection into First Republic.
Yeah. I mean, her history she's got to have worked at one of those. But real quick, the Federal Reserve System is not federal. There's no reserves, and it's not a system. It's literally bankers that are done that way, and every one of them almost has, or afterwards, by the way, goes into JP Morgan or into Goldman Sachs. And so that's the system of where we are right now. It's important for you guys to know what's going on, is that the big banks get bigger, even though they are able to default on other people's loans, and invest, take investors' money on that side. They go and buy these huge banks, and the money gets more and more consolidated. Guess what, too? They're also, similarly to Fox and CNN and all these other things, they're starting to dig their own graves anyways.
Yeah, I actually talked about this in a previous podcast. A former BlackRock executive said that just a matter of time, we're going to see all the smaller banks being bought up by the bigger banks, and at the end of the day, there'll only be a few big banks that are available. We know what the other side of things is: control and domination. And how do you control and dominate others? The less you have, the less people you have, the less banks you have, the less options you have, the easier it is to control.
Yeah.
So we see it. We see it coming, and we saw it at the last turn and the previous turn. And this is the game, it's this is when you say, it's just an illusion, right? And we have to remain balanced and calm and not get, emotionally attached and all that kind of stuff. And that takes work. I
do really want to say the big thing on this is to see the big picture. Don't worry about this stuff. Our entire segment of Spill the Beans is to make you aware of things. And I will say this 1 billion times. I'm going to actually take credit for this catchphrase, because I've been saying it for a really, really long time, from my first class that was 12 years ago, is you want to be aware of the spider web, but don't fall into it. And the mind is great at getting you thrown into that spider web. It's all good, man. Look, it's all good. Guess what's going to happen? The more and more these banks consolidate, the more and more and I don't mean this in a mean way, that they're digging their grave. Now, what I do mean by digging their grave is that all of this comes to the surface. It'll eventually integrate, and we'll be good with it. What can we do about it? Don't be as reliant on money. Don't be as reliant on banks. Try to break away from the systems, right? And by the way, not saying this one way or another, the one thing that they are not able to control right now that's freaking them out, and I'm only going to say one name because the rest of them I don't know, but the one that absolutely freaks them out because the codes are done, they just can't get to it, is Bitcoin. Okay, and 2 months ago, quietly, very, very, very quietly, the Federal Reserve released its own cryptocurrency. Most people don't know that.
But something I want to add about Bitcoin is that, yes, they don't control Bitcoin, but what they do control is the exchanges to buy Bitcoin.
Markets, that's right.
So, good luck. It's tough. It's a tough game.
But again, it's all good. As they do this, our reliance on money goes less and less. Inflation's out of control. Guess what? Because they're out of options. There's nothing else they can't figure out what else to do. And today, if I'm not mistaken, the days have merged, because yesterday I was telling you 21 hours, and it's getting pretty close to there again today. But
yeah, we're
it's all good.
It's past midnight, all good. And then some.
Is that there's nowhere to go. So guess what? The biggest mechanism of control, if the financial systems start to collapse. Look, BlackRock defaulting, by the way, is a big deal.
I know.
That's a big deal that doesn't get talked about. If they start to collapse, the control starts to fade. So let them do it. It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. Just be aware of this thing, that's the way it is. But we're in a beautiful state.
All right. So that's what's brewing. Now it's time to spill the beans, huh?
Spill those beans. Our last
So,
section.
Our last section. Thanks for staying with us so far. If you haven't
Yes.
subscribed, please do. All right. Spill the beans is where we talk about a spiritual task that we've asked you guys to do as well as ourselves. We look at it, we analyze it to some degree, we talk about our experience. Did we practice it? Did we not? And then we give a new spiritual task that we can hold ourselves accountable to
Yes.
and for the next week. And last week we talked about monitoring your thoughts, monitoring your thoughts and seeing where they stem from. Do they stem from fear, or do they stem from desire, or do they stem from somewhere else? Now, did you have an opportunity to monitor your thoughts at all and see if their origination was fear or desire?
Yes. It's really interesting because I'll tell you a deal that I'm working on, and it's very, very, very different in terms of the amount of money I could make on the deals. And it started to trend one way, which the amount of money I would make on the deal was a lot less. And I sat back and said, man, just what are you doing? Right? Like, just, by the way, I never steer it, but there's an obvious desire for you to go that way. I'm a fiduciary. I'll never, ever, ever, ever steer a client. I've never done it. I will never do it. I've genuinely probably, I'm not exaggerating on this, I've probably lost millions of dollars because of this, which, who cares? Anyways, it's an illusion. But I sat there because this was part of our task. And I'll spill the beans all the way on this one. I let it go. I was like, dude, great. So what? You wanted more money. It's coming from desire. Like, what are you even desiring? Like, so what? What is it going to do? And bringing that awareness really, when they say like the weight's on your shoulders, it just felt like it just melted away. And I got to tell you now, it's looking like they're going to do that deal.
So when you release the attachment to it and let go and surrender to it and were truthful and cleaned up as much as you could, everything seemed to is working out as you'd like it to.
And I don't know where it's going to go. As of today, as of right now, it looks like it's going to go there. But at the time, it just bringing awareness of this thing is only coming from a desire for me, like nothing else. And then I looked at it and I'm like, and my face is really judgmental on that, but I don't mean it to be judgmental of like, what do you, I always call it, right? Like, you want colored paper? Is that really going to make you anything? It's just paper that's colored. So that was a really big one for me. That was definitely a really, really big one for me.
Yeah, you applied it in a big way to a big scenario.
Yeah.
Not something small like, oh, I'm hungry, and if I don't eat now, what's going to happen? And, well, I desire to have a meal, and if I don't eat, and I'll be hungry later, so I fear that. Not, it was like, a real deal thing, and you applied it. Yeah. That's really great.
Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I know I do it plenty, and it wasn't anything big like that. And there was some bigger stuff I don't really want to share here because it's not appropriate. But, it's like seeing how I look at things, and some things that are like deeper for me, right? Like in relationships and stuff with people, and like what you want out of that relationship. Not looking at it like it's a business transaction, but it's like, if you're in a new relationship with somebody, perhaps how you look at it, and how you feel about them, and how you feel about how it all should work out, and you put these expectations on yourself and them and stuff, and where do those expectations come from? A lot of the times are from desire. I want this relationship to be this way. I want it to turn out this way. Or you fear, I fear that it could be this way. I fear that she could be this way. And then what's going to happen? And, and you're leaving the present moment. Right. I'm not able to enjoy that relationship the way I'd like to, because I'm going into these what ifs and what have yous, and going into the future, going into the past. And, well, I was in a relationship like this before with somebody, and you see, I'm not.
Yeah. Right.
The whole thing has become convoluted.
You spiral.
And it's not the key. So it's like, I noticed myself doing that a couple times, and I just said, you know what? Let me just be present and be in this relationship in this moment, and take it moment by moment.
Nice.
What will be, will be. If
Yeah.
it if where things don't work out, they don't work out, and if they do, they do. And nothing but being in the moment will harness that
Mm.
result.
Yeah. I love it.
So I applied it there.
Was it? Do you think? Did you have a feeling? Was it more? Was it more desire or fear at all for you?
There's both at play.
Both at
There's
play.
both at play. That's the thing with most of these things. You're playing on one side or the other. Like you talked about, it's really just a
Paradox.
That's right. It's just a paradox because on one side is I want this, and on the other side you don't want that.
Can I just hearing you? Can I give a little, maybe some
Sure.
clarity that I heard? I feel like your desires were on a linear timeline, like linear way of time. Your desires were all future based. Your fears were all past based. When you
Right.
said it, that's the way I
when
like.
they're based on the past, but then they could apply in the future.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but like the things that were
Yeah.
derived from fear were all previous. The desires were all future.
Yeah.
And it's that in that present moment they both go away.
They both go away. And what
Yeah.
they say is that depression is living in the past and anxiety is living in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when someone's depressed, they're living in the past.
I've
and
never
when they're
heard that
anxious,
before.
They're living in the future. Yeah, so you just come to the now, and in the now all is well.
I think I have a new theory, by the way,
What's that?
just off of what you said. I think the reason most people are anxious right now is because we are starting to really go into a new future, and people are unsure because there's a lot of anxiety.
I mean, it may also be
Out.
that they're on tons of pharmaceutical drugs too.
Yes, absolutely. Did you tell everyone who our sponsor is, by the way? I know, I'm just
Our
kidding.
sponsor is Mohammed's Tea Shop in Canoga Park.
Which doesn't exist, and if it does, we didn't.
He has fantastic Zulbia Bamiya
Yeah.
and other Persian treats.
By the way, did you know? Do you know how zulbia is made? Zulbia bamiya is a Persian pastry. Do you know how it's made?
No, I don't.
It's dairy based. Can you believe that?
Oh man, really?
Is that like the craziest thing?
Like the one thing I would
never
be able to have at dessert at a
Yeah.
Persian restaurant.
I would have never guessed because
I thought
it's
it's just honey and
No, but the thing is dairy based. My head exploded because I recently found this out. I was like, oh my god,
that wasn't related to your stomach or anything like that hurting, was it?
No,
Alright.
not at all.
Anyway, so that's the spill the beans. So we're gonna. Oh, we have a new spill the
No,
beans. Yes,
that's
there's a new, that was the
that's
past.
the recap one.
Heading into the new.
Yes.
Amir has a very
Yes.
interesting one for us, folks.
So I think for the next week, I want us to monitor in a way similar to the one that we just did with desire and fear, but I want to monitor any activity, specifically your activity,
Physical activity.
that links you to survival. And I want you to push, because this is going to sound insane. People that know me are going to go, well, it's easy for you because you don't eat or drink anything and you always exercise. But I really do mean it. Are you doing any activity that comes to you because you think you need to survive?
Can you give us a little bit of example of that?
Yes. So I'm going to expand what survival means here, because I think it's extraordinarily important. Survival can mean going to work. Survival can mean eating. Survival can mean drinking. Survival can mean
Reproducing.
It can mean I have to say this. If not, what about me? What about my ego?
That's a
How
good
do
one.
I think? How do I feel? What about this? I'm not going to be heard. Is that coming from survival? Are you doing anything on any level that is coming from survival? And I really deeply, genuinely mean this. And this is one of those exercises that I've done before, but bringing this into focus for the next week is really important. And I mean this. Are you going to the gym because you're enjoying it, or are you doing it for longevity of some sorts? Even to that level is
That's
what I'm
interesting.
pushing it
The
to.
gym.
Are you doing it out of a resonance of, man, when I work out, I feel incredible? Or is it a chore? Because it's going to help you live longer.
I would think a lot of people go to the gym because of vanity reasons.
That's the whole point of this exercise, right? Yeah, there's definitely that too.
People want to look good. and it
Right.
feels good too. But I'm saying they want to look good. They know that if they don't work out, their body's not gonna. They're gonna get fat, whatever it may be. And yes, that could lead to not as long of a life. So I guess
Usually
it's
they want to
tied,
look
but
younger, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's survival. I
Hmm.
know that's not survival in the front part of
But
thinking
there's
about
a
it.
component to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I think the easiest practice on this for the next week is anytime you're eating something, are you really doing it off of survival or are you doing it for the taste, like the experience? And I know that might sound really weird. But try to even on that go. And that's the easiest route, by the way. But all the other things we can do as well. Like, does this really serve my highest resonance right now? Like, am I going? I'll give you an example, right? Work. Am I going to this meeting just to go because I'll make money and money equals survival? This is a big one, by the way. This is a big
So
task.
let's say you do see it. You're doing a lot of. You're eating for survival. You're working out for survival. You're having sex for survival. You're paying your mortgage, working to pay your mortgage for survival because you need a roof over your head. So
Mhm.
so be it. So what?
What are you trying to survive from if you're an infinite being?
Well, you're an infinite being, but you're still in this car, and the car needs gas to run. And if you don't put gas in it, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Says who?
Says the gas gauge and the engine not turning on.
That's why I brought this topic up, because I was actually
I'm just playing devil's advocate with
no,
you.
no,
here.
I love it. This is what I was anticipating for us to get into next week.
Well, then we'll cap it at that, and
No,
we
no.
will.
I expand on it
I
real
think
quick.
This might be a good way to
Expand on
keep
it.
the listeners
Just
plugged
say,
in.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. No. But say what you said one more time.
Which
You're
part?
still in the 3D body, so I still need this, and I am telling you, this is gonna sound as if I'm telling you to move somewhere else, and I am. Can you go beyond the physical? Because the physical is always, always in a survivalistic mode. By the way, the physical is driven by the brain, and the brain wants to survive.
All right. Well,
This
thank
is a big
you.
one.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope
Yes.
that we were able to offer some information that would be helpful to you, or at least give you a good time and a good laugh. We're the Conscious Cup of consciousness
Conscious cup.
Conscious
We
Cup.
are the conscious cup. Yes.
Podcast, and we are not that. We are infinite. Anyway, I'm Leonard, Elijah Shemtob.
And I'm Amir Araghi, and we really, really thank you for your love, for your energy, for your vibration, and we look forward to seeing you back here next week.
Please hit subscribe, make a comment, make a like. It helps us spread the word.
Yes. Much love.
May all be well. May all be living in unison with the Creator. Tat Sat, so it is.